Hi, and welcome back to Purple Collar Life. I'm Chad, and today we're talking about wood pellets. In the last several weeks, I have gone through 6 separate brands of wood pellets. And this video is going to break down for you how long did each brand burn, what were the temperatures on the top of the stove and the side of the stove, what was the temperature outside, what I think about the packaging, and what my overall thoughts were of each different type of pellets. Because as you know, there are a million different pellet brands to choose from if you're burning pellets. And the question I wanted to answer was not only which is the best for our use, but what's the difference between them, and are some of them the same? Are they totally different? So if you wanted to know the difference between different brands of pellets, today's video is designed just for you. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, and no, it's not that Christmas tree. Yes, we do still have a Christmas tree up. The current date is the 25th of January, so we're a month after Christmas. But we put a lot of Christmas trees up. Jennifer really enjoys decorating for Christmas. So during the season, we have about 6 trees up. Several of those are down, but this one still remains. We're kind of enjoying it just for a couple more days or maybe a week here before it gets taken down. But the elephant in the room is the Bills. Yes, I'm a huge Bills fan. If you watch the channel, you know in a previous video I talked about the upcoming playoff game between the Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. It was a great game. I wish it wouldn't have ended with a kick wide right. So yes, the Bills did lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs. It was disappointing, but I was impressed with the game. It was a close game the whole time. I figured it would be. I wasn't sure exactly who would win. Obviously, I was hoping it would be the Bills. But I'll say that probably the most underrated quarterback in the NFL is Josh Allen. His throws are amazing, great leadership. He can see the field really well. So I think still great things in the future for the Bills, for those of us who are Bills fans. So yes, I did actually buy 6 different brands of pellets to test out in our pellet stove for this video. I've got the bags and the receipts to prove it. I also kept a detailed spreadsheet as we burned these of all the facts I wanted to talk about in the video, so we'll be using that throughout the video. But probably a huge disclaimer is necessary here. As they say on the forums, YMMV, your mileage may vary, because this is just our experience with one bag at a time of these different brands of pellets burning through our stove at this time of the year in our house in Northwest Pennsylvania. So obviously there's a ton of factors that will influence how long a bag lasts, how hot it burns. It's going to depend on the stove, the feed rate, the size of the room, the temperature outside, the temperature inside before you started. So there's tons of variables. And this video is just to say, with all those variables standard in our house, in our environment, these were the results we found with this group of 6 different types and brands of pellets for wood pellet stoves. So someone had asked in a previous video, left a comment, have we ever tried other types of pellets? And the answer to that is yes. Not only this time, but before we've bought tons of pellets at a time, I bought the pellets from Tractor Supply, Home Depot, Lowe's. At the time we didn't have Rural King, but there were a couple other stores that sold wood pellets. I tried them all, and what I found is that different pellets are available all the time at those stores. So you can go in and get used to one brand, and then you might go in the next winter and that brand isn't available anymore. There's totally different brands. So we ended up with the Agway brand because we could consistently get the same pellets year after year after year. And another reason we really like the Agway brand is because it's a local store that we're supporting. They will deliver it to the house and stack it in the basement, which is a huge help to us. And we found in that testing against pellets that we had bought previously at Tractor Supply and Home Depot that these didn't produce quite as much ash. So you can burn a ton of pellets and see how full the ash pan is. And we burnt a ton of a couple of different kinds of pellets previously, probably 10 years ago, and found that the Agway brand produced the least ash while still producing a good amount of heat for a long time. Now that's been about 10 years, so now we've done the test again. But before we talk about the results, let's talk about the space we're heating. This is a 20 by 40 great room, so it's a combination dining room and living room. It has a cathedral ceiling 16 feet high. We do have a fan up there that can move the air around. We do have exterior walls on 3 walls of this 20 by 40. We are in Northwest Pennsylvania. The temperatures during the time of this testing was below freezing the entire time. This was the 3rd week in January. We actually had really cold temperatures for the majority of the time, probably in the teens, I'm going to say, during the times that the stove was burning. about our stove. This is a Harman P68 pellet stove, and I don't adjust my settings as far as the feed rate. The feed rate is always set, and I'll put a clip in here. I always have the feed rate set at just about 2 for the feed adjuster. I leave the temperature somewhere around 72 on the temperature setting, and we use the room temp setting on the stove on-off knob. So there's a room temp and a stove temp. We typically use the room temp. When you use the room temp, it uses this little thermostat cord to determine the temperature in the room and determine whether or not the stove needs to add more pellets or less pellets, more blower, less blower. And then lastly about our stove, because several people have asked, where's the exhaust? There is a pipe that goes straight through the wall, exhaust to the outside, but it's not only an exhaust pipe, there's also an air inlet pipe because you need fresh air to come into the stove and exhaust air to go out. So one of the tools I used throughout this test was this heat temperature gun. I could use it to scan the top of the stove, which is currently at 131 degrees, the side of the stove, which is currently at 178 degrees. You can see the pellet stove is not feeding pellets and burning right now. That's because the room is warm enough. That's one of the nice things about a pellet stove. It will, using the thermostat, kick on when it needs to. The room currently here by the stove is almost 80 degrees. Now again, that's right above the stove. If you get 15 feet away, it's not going to be 80 degrees. But the nice thing about a pellet stove is it'll auto-regulate and feed more pellets or less pellets, turn on and off as it needs to. I'll put a link to this temperature gun down below. If you don't have one of these, it's handy. I've used it to test the rotors on brakes on my truck to see if a caliper is sticking. Use it for things like this, for the video, to see temperatures. It's just a handy tool to have at home, not that expensive. That Amazon affiliate link will be down below if you are interested in one of these. Okay, the first brand we're going to talk about, Greene Supreme Heating Pellets, Premium Plus. These are made by Lignetics Group. So we're going to talk about the same categories in each brand. Cost of the bag, where we got them, cost by ton, temperature on the top of the stove on average, temperature on the side of the stove on average, the burn time, the ash content estimate, and that's going to be just a guess based on what we saw in the pan. You can obviously gauge ash content after burning a whole ton because you see a lot more ash in the pan. After just one bag, it's kind of hard to gauge between several bags, but I kind of gave a guess on here of each of those. We'll give the advertised BTUs. Some of these brands advertise the amount of BTUs in the bag. Some of them don't. We'll talk about the packaging and our overall thoughts. Okay, so these Greene Supreme pellets we purchased at Tractor Supply for $4.99 a bag, or you can get a ton of them. That's 50 bags at 40 pounds for $235.50. With the Greene Supreme, we had an average top of the stove temperature of 207 degrees, side of the stove temperature of 375 degrees. Our burn time for one bag was 10 hours. Ash content was slightly less than typical. And remember, for typical, we're comparing it to what we burn on an everyday basis, which is the Agway pellets. So a little bit less than the Agway pellets, a little bit less than typical. Advertised BTU, according to the bag, is 8,400 BTUs. A couple comments on the packaging. It's nice packaging. I like how they have this window that you can see the pellets inside the bag. You can kind of see what they look like. You'll notice if you're shopping for pellets, some of them have really long pellets, some of them have just kind of little bits, like almost leftovers. This was a good mix of normal size and long pellets, so it didn't seem like it was an inferior quality product. The green in the name makes you feel pretty good, like you're supporting, you're being eco-friendly by burning the green wood pellets. Overall thoughts for this one, it seems to burn a little bit cooler. That top temperature and side temperature were cooler than some of the other pellet brands, and it burnt for a little bit shorter time. In our experience, this was a 10-hour burn for this bag. Okay, the next brand we'll talk about is the Agway brand, the premium wood pellet fuel. Like I said, we've been buying these, tons of them, each year for probably the last 8 to 10 years. This has been our favorite brand. This year, we were running low on them. I ordered more. Agway doesn't actually sell the Agway branded pellets anymore. They're using a different brand, which we'll talk about later. So I still had some of these left. I wanted to include this in the test. So this Agway bag of fuel that we actually purchased multiple tons in 2022, The price at the time was $6.99 a bag, $300 for the ton. The burn top temperature when it's feeding pellets, so during the regular burn time of the pellets. So the burn top temperature when this is feeding pellets and the active flame is going, we had a top temperature of 240 degrees, a side temperature of 400 degrees. Burn time with this bag was 13 hours. Ash is typical because this is exactly what we're used to. Advertised BTU doesn't say on the bag how many BTUs in this one. I like the nice clear bag. I like that Agway confirms that these are made in West Virginia, so nearby and here in the United States. In previous tests, we use a lot less of this fuel than other brands because it seems to burn longer. So that's why we kept burning it. Burns a little bit cleaner, burns a little bit longer, the convenience, and to support a local business. Okay, next up, the EasyHeat brand. We bought these for $4.90 for the bag at Rural King. A ton of these, 50 bags, would cost you $249.50. The burn top temperature, 260 degrees. Burn side temperature, 500 degrees. These lasted 12 hours for this bag. Slightly more ash than typical. I noticed when I was scraping out the burn pan, not listed how many BTUs are on this one, and the white bag is nice and clean looking from the outside, but you can't see the pellets, so you can't tell what they look like inside the bag until you open it. One nice thing, these are made in Ohio, so not far from us here in Pennsylvania. And then overall thoughts, these burned really hot, so you'll notice I put in the temperature. The side temperature was 500 degrees when this was, burning at its, seems like its peak of the burn. But it did make a little bit more ash than normal. And the burn time at 12 hours was pretty typical for this time of year and this stove in this room. Okay, next up, the Greene Gold Premium Plus Hardwood Pellet Fuel. This was $4.99 a bag at Rural King, $249.50 for the pallet full, a ton. So the same price as the EasyHeat that we also got at Rural King. The top temperature with these pellets was 230 degrees, side temperature 430 degrees. These burned for 14 hours in our test on that particular day. Typical ash content, they rate these at 8,100 BTUs, so a little bit less than the Greene Supreme that we looked at earlier. Packaging, this is by far my favorite packaging. It's descriptive on the front. They've got all the information down here, the content, material, ash, fines, moisture, BTUs. They've got a QR code here you can scan. But even more fun than the front is the back, where they go over the advantages of green teams, green wood, burns better, constant quality, less ash, less dust. I like that they have the eco-friendly information on here, that this is not the part of the wood that would be creating lumber. They don't cut down any trees specifically to make pellets. This is just byproduct of other wood processing. And that's probably the case with all wood pellets, but I like that this bag takes the time to explain that. It is proudly made in the United States. These are made right here in Pennsylvania. So overall thoughts on these, excellent burn time and heat at a lower price than our typical Agway pellets. The next bag I tested were the Hammer's Hot Ones Premium Grade Hardwood Pellet Fuel. This is actually what our Agway sells now. They say it's the same exact pellets as they've been selling. It's just instead of getting Agway branded bags, they're just going with the OEM brand, which is the Hammer's Hot Ones. But they claim these are the exact same pellets from West Virginia that have always been inside the Agway bag. So how did they test out compared? These were $7.99 a bag at Agway, so the price is up there. A ton of them is $350, so $100 more per ton than those other ones we talked about from Rural King and Tractor Supply. Average burn top temperature was 250 degrees. Side temperature was 410 degrees. These burned for 14 hours, so good burn time. Typical amount of ash. Doesn't say on here how many BTUs of pellets are in the bag. About the bag, it's white and black. You definitely can't see through it to see what's in it. There's no cool, interesting packaging message on the back, so I kind of missed that compared to the other one we just looked at. Pellet quality seems good. Good length pellets. They burn good. Ash is what we're used to. So I'd say these are as nice as the Agway ones we're used to. The problem is the price is getting pretty high on these. You know, $7.99 a bag, $350 for a ton. That's quite a bit for a bag of pellets that don't severely outperform the other ones we've looked at. Okay, last bag, the Lignetics Wood Pellet Fuel Premium Plus. This is the exact same brand that made the first bag we talked about, the Greene Supreme. I don't know if these are the exact same pellets or not. We bought these ones at Ace Hardware. These are $6.79 a bag, so for 40 pounds, $6.79. A ton of them is $299.99. Burn top temperature was 255 degrees. Burn side temperature was 490. That's our second highest in the group. The EasyHeat ones at 500 degrees was the highest side temperature we had, but this was a close second. These did burn for 12 hours, so a little bit less than a couple of the other ones, but a little bit more than the initial ones from Lignetics. Typical amount of ash, 8,400 BTU is what they claim right here on the bag, 8,400 BTU. Another one, just like that first one, where you've got a little window through the bag to see the pellets, that's nice. And the back of the bag is all clear. But again, no fun, cool messaging like we had on the other one that I like the best. Slightly better burn time than the other Lignetics pellets, though they might be the exact same pellets, and maybe we just saw the difference in a room temperature or the time of day or how much it had to feed to keep that room temperature. So burn time on a bag is always going to vary depending on outside variables, even beyond the room, the time of year, the location, the stove, the feed settings. There are just going to be variables depending on the day. Okay, so like I said, I actually just bought a ton of the Hamers to replace the Agway pellets that we were running out of. Those were the most expensive ones available to us at $350 a ton. We actually paid $370 because we paid $20 to have Agway deliver them here to the house and unload them and stack them in the basement for us. When I travel for work from 6:30 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, it's nice to have the availability of Agway to come and deliver those and stack them without me being here, and it's nice to support a local business and a local worker that does those deliveries. Okay, so let's compare here in the chart. The cheapest bags were the Greene Supreme from Tractor Supply, the EasyHeat from Rural King, and the Green Gold from Rural King. Most expensive was the new Hamers Hot Ones that we bought from Agway. Cost by ton, if you were buying them a ton at a time, $235 was the cheapest. Those were the Greene Supreme at Tractor Supply. $249.50, two different kinds from Rural King, and then $300 were the Lignetics at Ace Hardware, and the Agway ones in 2022 that aren't available anymore. And then the most expensive one, those Hamers Hot Ones. Burn temperature on the top of the stove varied from 207 degrees to 260 degrees as a high. Side temperature varied from 375 degrees to 500 degrees as a high. Burn time varied from 10 hours to 14 hours. And then ash content, all of them were pretty typical, a little bit less in one instance and a little bit more in another instance. BTUs advertised was either not available or 8,100 or 8,400. And then, like I said, if we talked about best packaging, this is by far my favorite with these little drawings on the back and the call-outs. I think this is great marketing on the part of these Green Gold Premium Pellets marketing team. Having said we just bought those Hamers, the super convenience of having Agway deliver them, supporting Agway as a local business, that was nice. But having run this test, examining these 6 brands, if I were to buy another ton right now, it would be these ones. These would be my favorite. Yes, they did win me over with their marketing because the bag is so cool, but also for $5 a bag or $250 a ton from Rural King, we got 14 hours of burn time out of this bag. So, you know, over 50 bags of a ton that we would buy, that's a lot of extra burn time, about 2 hours per bag on average, burn time extra. That adds up. The savings compared to our Agway ones that we bought, that adds up. So if I were going to buy more pellets today, I'd get these Green Gold ones. Now the problem will be, these may never be available again at our Rural King. Like I said, those type of stores, Tractor Supply, Home Depot, Lowe's, Rural King, they never seem to have the same brand repeatably year after year after year. But if you do see these where you can get them, based solely on my experience of burning this one bag, I would say give a ton of them a try. We had great luck with this one bag. It tested really high compared to the other ones. All of them were good, premium quality wood pellets, nothing that was junk in my opinion, but these were my favorite of the tests that we did during this preparation for the video. I hope you enjoyed this test of various brands of wood pellets. If it was informative and entertaining, please give us a big thumbs up down below. I can tell you that Olive, laying here on her bed, has loved that I have done a burn test with pellets every single day, putting out all that nice warm air right up against where she lays here on her bed. She loves the heat of a wood stove and the pellet stove, so this has been great experience for her as we made the video research here. Thanks for watching. If you've got pellets you like the best, leave a comment down below on which ones you buy, where you buy them, and about what you pay. It's amazing how much the price of pellets have gone up since we put this pellet stove in over 10 years ago. I'm pretty sure we were paying about $2 a bag at the time, and as you can see, the price has really gone up since then, but the price of everything has gone up. In a previous video we did called wood stove versus pellet stove, several people have commented, the nice thing about a wood stove, if you've got woods behind you like us, is that while the wood isn't free, because you're spending your time, chainsaw expenses, gasoline, hauling, whatever your equipment you're using, so it's not really free, but it is wood that you're able to process on your own. Whereas pellets, I don't know many people who have a pellet mill and enough supply of sawdust or wood chunks to make their own pellets to make it worthwhile to buy a pellet mill and produce their own pellets. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll see you again the next time.
Yes, yes.